It's not easy being a DV survivor. And honestly, it's not something for me that I think about every single day. I don't navigate my life thinking I'm a survivor. But obviously, there are things that trigger me. This Diddy and Cassie case, when we hear Meg Thee Stallion's case, Keke Palmer's case, when I hear people on the internet say things like, I wish it would have been me. And the truth is, you don't know what you'll do in a situation till you in it. And as I'm preparing to participate in this podcast tonight at 8 p.m., I'm mentally preparing myself for these questions. And let me tell you, these questions are a doozy. Questions like, how do you navigate being in community with your abuser? What were the warning signs? What type of abuse did you experience? Because if you didn't know, there are multiple types of abuse. I hope that my perspective gives y'all pause to change your vocabulary and your outlook on how you treat DV survivors, and to have a little bit more compassion and understanding for victims.
Hey, welcome to the Sharing Hope and Inspiration podcast. We are your hosts, Jim, Denise Jackson, and we are so excited to be here today. We have a great topic I hope you guys enjoy and learn a lot from. We are currently going live from the Shy Foundation page on Facebook. Also, we're going live from YouTube, as well as my page, and people should be sharing their pages as well. We have a great guest, as you seen the clip earlier. She's going to be very informative. I see a couple people trying to get situated, so we're going to give them a couple minutes, and then we're going to get started. Well, not a couple minutes, a couple seconds.
Couple of seconds. I like your elevator music, Jim.
So silly.
Come on in, guys. Tune in. It's going to be a very impactful and powerful segment tonight. So come on in, get your snacks, get your little wine. Let's talk. Let's tune in. Let's speak up. Let's speak out.
All right. So everything looks good. We live on all platforms. Get started. All right. Like we said, welcome to the Sharing Hope and Inspiration podcast. Denise Jackson and myself, Jims, are your hosts, and we are privileged to have you here with us today and being so supportive. Today's conversation is one that many can relate to, but few are given a space to speak on. What it's like to live in the same community as your abuser. When leaving isn't simple and safety doesn't come with distance, what does healing look like? How do you navigate the grocery store, sidewalk, social events, knowing you may run into the person who caused you harm? Well, our guest today has lived this reality, and she brings with her a story of deep resilience. Brandy Helena. Brandy Helena wears many hats. She works in corporate America. She has a degree from SCAD in visual communication. She co-owns 3 social justice book clubs, including the Anti-Racism Book Club for White Women. She's a content creator. She was featured on the Tamron Hall show in New York, in the New York Times, the Rolling Stones, and most recently, the Atlanta Voyage. Brandy believes that Black women deserve protection and that trans rights are human rights. Thank you so much for coming here today, Brandy, and being brave enough to share your story with us. So, everybody, could you please help me welcome Brandy Helena to the stage.
Thank you for
Yay!
having me. Thank you for having me.
Yay! Yay! Thank you
Thank
so
you for joining us. I so appreciate it.
Of
You
course.
know you're in my heart.
You are my auntie and I love you.
And thank you so very much. So very much.
Of course.
All right,
Let's get started.
let's get started. Okay, so can you start by sharing a little bit about who you are today and what brings you joy and strength? Let's start off on a high note.
Sure. So, who I am today, wow. I'm a daughter, a wife, a sister, a auntie, a friend, and all those things bring me joy. A graduate, all those things bring me joy, especially being an auntie. My nephew is 3 years old. He'll be 4 in December, and yeah, I live a very fulfilling life, and I love to travel. I love to read. Yeah, I love to talk.
Oh,
Clearly, so yeah, I live a very fulfilling life. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
okay, so how did your journey into and through the abusive relationship begin? And what were some of the early warning signs, if any?
So for me, so let me clarify. The relationship that I was in was with a woman, a masculine presenting woman. And so for me, it was a series of relationships that landed me into that relationship. And what I mean by that is I had a series of relationships that I accepted. My standards were lowered each and every single time, right? And
Mhm.
so it was inevitable in retrospect that I would end up in an abusive relationship, because like in one relationship I was accepting, excuse me, this is also in my 20s. I was very young. I'm originally from New York and I had moved to Atlanta from New York. And so it was my first time being away from my foundation, which I was, so it made me susceptible. I was just as easily as susceptible to like a cult, like just anything where you're susceptible to a new way of thinking because you're away from your original foundation, right? So I was first introduced to like somebody talking to me crazy, so like verbal abuse, right? And then to some, the next relationship was verbal abuse, and then somebody cheating on me and accepting that, and then verbal abuse, somebody cheating on me, and then somebody like manhandling me but not hitting on me, right? And so eventually I just ended up in a relationship where I just kept accepting less and not really having people around me to remind me of my value and that I deserved better. And so that's how I ended up in that relationship. I wasn't grounded. I didn't have anybody pouring into me to remind me who I was and whose I was. And I don't say that to blame anybody, but just to say I didn't have, I'm owning that, right? Like I didn't have
Mhm.
foundation in my life. So though for me, in retrospect, those were the warning signs.
Mm,
Mhm.
that was a lot.
A
Yeah.
lot.
That was,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was a lot. Yeah, when you moved down here, when you said it felt like a cult. Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
just accepting less than, that was a lot.
Yeah. And
Right.
I didn't have the language to say that at the time. I didn't realize that's what was happening at the time, because you just be in love, right? You just in relationship, and so it's all manipulation. Um, you can't see it from the forest from the trees when you're in love, and so you just accept it for what it was. I remember being in a relationship with this girl when I was at Spelman, and for an example, we would go out to the club and she would be dancing up on girls in front of my face. And it's not to say that's necessarily cheating, but I didn't like it. But I didn't have the language to be able to say to her, I don't like how I feel when you do that. So it
Mhm.
was something that I would accept,
Mm,
right? But it made me feel small. So it would be something that would make me literally reduce myself, right, in a relationship. And so when you start to literally shrink yourself in relationship, instead of being able to use your voice and say, hey, I don't like this, and be able to choose yourself over how somebody is making you feel, and you continue to do that, this is when you start to practice choosing other people over yourself. And so it becomes an everyday occurrence. And
Mm-hmm.
so you do it in other situations, right? So then you do it regarding your finances. You do it in whether they put their hands on you. You do it in the movies you want to go see. You do it in the what amusement park you want to go to. You do it in the car you want to go buy. You do it in the apartment you want to choose. Like you do it in all these other type of choices that you have, but it starts very small and it snowballs into other things.
Mm.
Mm.
So what you say, um, being that it snowballed into other things,
Hmm.
what you say that you made each of those things became your normal.
Right. Right. And that's how the manipulation works, right? Because it always starts small. Um that I can't speak to whether or not the abuser is intentional. I would imagine some abusers are intentional about it. I can't speak to whether or not my abuser was intentional about it, but I know in retrospect, right, when I look back at it, um, it feels like it was intentional to put me in positions where she would make me choose her over me on small things. And
Mm-hmm.
then it would gradually escalate to larger things to where eventually she would not even have to ask me to choose her over me. I would do it for her. Right. And so that was the goal of the manipulation, was eventually I would choose her. There was no choice. Pleasing her became the effort that I put, that every day, what would make her happy was my goal in the morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there was no, um, well, if I have to do, how do I say it? There was no, if I wake up in the morning and I have choices to make, what would make her happy, what would make me happy? There was no choice. Eventually it was, let me get up and make sure I make her breakfast, or let me get up and make sure that her clothes are pressed, or let me get up and make sure that da 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 da. And so that is, it's so interesting because now there's this, right now there's this thing happening, especially on the internet, especially on TikTok, where there's this resurgence of traditional wives and trad life, where the internet is trying to make it sexy to be like a princess, and trying to make it sexy to be taken care of by your partner and to not have like self autonomy. But that's really very dangerous, because when
Mm-hmm.
you lose your self autonomy, really what you're giving up is your self control and your
Your
ability to make
self-control,
your own,
correct.
right, to give up your own choices in life. And when you give up your choices, you're literally giving up the ability to decide for yourself what's best for you. And that's a recipe for disaster.
Correct. So,
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, guys.
You okay?
Did we get into what types of abuse you experienced?
No. So I experienced financial abuse, and physical abuse. I remember, it's funny, like not haha funny, but funny, ironic. Um, Financial abuse can show up in a myriad of ways, right? And I know we talked about this a lot in last week's podcast. But financial abuse is not only like, oh, a person takes money from you. It could also be like, um you're dependent on, on them. For
mm-hmm.
me, it was they she took money from me, right? And so this showed up in a lot of ways. But financial abuse is scary because it comes with its own shame. So it's separate from physical abuse, because when somebody is taking you for all you got financially, it is so embarrassing. It feels like the shame that comes with that, because people will call, oh, you stupid, you a fool. Um, this person, I remember, y'all know I'm a Beyonce fan, right? I'm going to see her tomorrow. My very, I remember paying my rent late once. The very first Beyonce concert I went to cost me $100 ticket, and I paid my rent late just to go see Beyonce. But I remember one time she got caught up in some type of drug case, and she asked me for her
Who, Beyonce?
no child, but my abuser asked me for some money asked me for some money to pay her parole or whatever, right? And I said she needed to borrow the money, and I kept my rent money. This is before I didn't have a bank account, so I kept my cash in my top drawer. And so I gave her my apartment key, and I said, "You can borrow $100 or whatever for my rent money. Um, it's in my top drawer." I gave her my apartment key to go get it. So she goes to get the money. She goes to get some money order. Comes back to my job to mail off the money order. Right? She to bring me back my key. I don't get off of work till 10. I go back home. I get home at 11 o'clock at night. I get home, all my rent money gone.
Mm.
All my
Oh,
all my rent money gone. Like $800 gone. The the level of fallout on the floor sick, and the level of delusion I had was like somebody must have broke in. I was so delusional. I was like somebody must have broke in with the key. Like I just did not want to believe. Um and then I found out that she took it to the strip club.
oh wow.
Then there was another time where she had one part of the abuse was she had two girlfriends at the same time. I was her second girlfriend, and her other girlfriend was being evicted, and she asked me to help the first girlfriend. So I took a loan from my 401k to help pay the first girlfriend's rent, like $1,200 to help pay her rent. So it was a lot of financial abuse for me. Um, a lot one time I had a surgery and was out for like a week from my job, and I couldn't afford to be out that week. It put me behind in my bills. And when I got back to work, I picked up a second job working at Applebee's as a server. And it took me like 6 months to realize that the only time I would see her would be the day that I would get a paycheck from Applebee's. Like I was just gone. Like in my head, I was just so head over heels, in love that I could not see the forest from the trees. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and people. It's not to say that people didn't try to tell me or hold my hand and walk me through, what was going on, but it wasn't something that I wanted to believe. So I just
Mhm.
I didn't believe it.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was also so taboo because still now if we don't speak up and speak out in reference to it, it's still a topic that's pushed aside. So at that given time, it was like, who was talking about domestic violence
Right. Especially with women.
with women? It's like
Yeah.
who was pointing out the signs?
I remember I made a video the other day that my grandmother used to tell me never give a man the three M's: your mind, your money, and your morals, right? It's great advice. I
Smart.
wish she would have
Hmm.
been gender inclusive, right?
Right. Right.
But also, I wish she would have given me game on what that looks like. Because a lot of times I think we tell young people what to do or what not to do, but we don't give them game on how that thing shows up in our real lives,
Hmm.
right? And so what it will sound like when somebody asks of you to give them money. It's not gonna it's similar to like when we tell children don't speak to strangers. Strangers don't look like the boogeyman.
Exactly.
Okay. The stranger is gonna look like your school teacher, right? When we tell children don't speak to strangers, the stranger gonna offer you a puppy. The stranger's gonna offer you candy. And you got to be able, as a 3-year old, as a 5-year old, to identify that it's still a stranger, and you still shouldn't walk with them to the car, right? And in that
Exactly.
same way, I know it sounds silly, but in that same way, as an adult, it's not a stranger that's walking up to you that's gonna punch you in your face. That's not what's happening, right? It's somebody that you're head over heels in love with that punches you in your face, and then you got to decide what you
Hmm.
want to do about that, right? It's somebody who you head over heels in love with that steals your rent money, And then you got to decide what you want. And those emotions do something different to you than if a stranger mugs you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Whew. I'm sorry, I'm in the chat. Okay, so
And I'm free to answer questions. If you see questions in the chat that you want me to answer, that's fine.
it's mostly right now. It's just comments that people thank you for
Okay.
sharing your stories and
Yeah.
sharing what you say your grandmama told you.
Yeah. The three M's:
3 M's:
your mind, your money, and your morals.
mind, money, and morals. I don't gave up all of them several times.
Right. A few times.
Sheesh.
And twice on Sunday.
Goodness. I think you hit some of the ones already. So,
Okay.
because because you pretty much hit on how the abuse impact your sense of identity and safety.
Right,
Um,
right.
Mhm.
unless you want to elaborate on that some more.
So so just transparency. So Gemini had sent me these questions prior to the podcast, and so I was thinking about the sense of safety, and I wanted to say about a sense of safety. Obviously, I'm happy. I'm married. I'd have moved on, right?
And we know you happy to be married. Lord.
Because my husband is my man, right?
Hello.
And I love him down. But I also want to say this, and I am safe with him. It's not even that I feel safe. I am safe with him. Also, right? There's something about some things don't leave you. We were just in Cancun last week, and they said, "Listen, I'm from New York. Okay, if you're a New Yorker, you know the streets are loud. You could be in your house in your bedroom, you can hear the motherfuckers walking down the street. It's just loud, right? You hear gunshots, you hear cars backfire, right? We in Cancun, the fireworks go off, and I heard gunshots. I don't think ever in my life I'm gonna hear fireworks, and the first thing I don't hear is gunshots. I don't think that's ever gonna happen because
Hmm.
I'm a New Yorker, and that's how I grew up. Is every once in a while, gunshots ring out. So now at 42, when I hear fireworks, that's my first thought. So in that same way, the sense of safety or the sense of security that I have is just always going to be a little skewed. You know what I'm saying? Because I have experienced humanity in a way that don't mean me no good, right?
Hmm.
I have experienced liars that mean to do me dirty. I have experienced humanity. This girl beat my ass on the side of 285 one day. And when I told her mama about it, her mama said, "What you calling me for?" Her mama told me, her mama was mad at me that I left her on the side of 285. What you leave my child on the side of 285 for? That's what she was worried about. You see what I'm saying? Like, I have experienced that. So because I know that there are people like that that exist, it has deeply changed how I experience people, and
Hmm.
and how I trust and what I believe. You know what I'm saying? And so I can't say that I will ever wholly be the same. You know what I'm saying? It just changes you. And that's just real. That's just real life. That's just the way
Hmm.
the world works. You once it's like the veil has been removed.
Yeah.
Um, it just changes who you are, and I feel like it would be dishonest of me. And I've been in therapy for years. I've read the books, and I just feel like it would be dishonest of me to say that I've healed and I'm the person I was. I don't think that I will ever quite be the Brandy that I was before that experience.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people suffer from relationship
Yeah.
PTSD, but I could not even imagine someone saying, "Why did you leave my child on the side of the road after your child inflict bodily harm to me?" You
Yeah.
better be
Yeah.
glad that's the least I did was leave them on
Yeah.
the road.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. And
But I want to stay right there for a second because I want to tell a little bit more about that story because I feel like there's a lot going on with this Diddy and Cassie case, and they the I know Dawn Richards had got up and I've been keeping a close eye on it. Dawn Richards had got up and testified, and they said that her testimony was faulty because she told the story this way and then she told the story that way, and it was faulty. So I want to share something to kind of clarify for some people who say, well, did it happen, did it not happen, why don't you remember this, why your story changes, right? So when that situation happened, um we were coming back from phase one. For those of you who don't know, phase one was like the largest lesbian club here in Atlanta at the time. It doesn't exist anymore. We were coming back from phase one. It was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. It's on 285 on Glenwood. Clearly I remember it, right? We were having some type of argument and she hauled off and hit me in my head. My head hit there were quite a few times my head hit the glass in my car. I was driving. So I pull over to the side of the road and we get to tussling. I'm trying to defend myself. And when I say tussling, I'm using that word lightly, okay? It was more than that. When I first recall telling this story, the story that I told was that she got out the car and tried to pull me out the car, but I got the door closed. The gas tank was on E. I pull up to the Glenwood exit and get to the gas station. I was like frantic. I went inside to put gas in the car because this is before gas stations had the thing where you could insert your card, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I go inside to put the gas in the car and I get back out to pump the gas, like $5. I was broke. I was a college student, whatever. $5 in the tank to go because if she hustled, she could have ran up the ramp to get to me, right? So I'm trying to hurry up and I'm calling our friends to tell them where she is so that they can come get her. I wasn't trying to leave her, but I was trying to get the safety. Okay. Later, I remember in the story that there were men in the gas station that were worried about me because I remember a guy saying to me, Shorty, you okay? Because I had leaves on my back, right? And so in the second iteration of me telling the story, I was like, why did I have leaves on me? In the second time of me telling the story, I remember she got me out the car and we had fought in a ditch on the floor. But I did not remember that the first time I told the story
Mm-hmm.
from the adrenaline of what had occurred. And so I'm telling that story to say that just because you can remember that something happened, it doesn't mean that you can remember every little bitty thing that occurred when you
Correct.
first tell it, when you secondarily tell it, when you tertiarily tell it. Your recollection comes to you more and more and more, right, as you tell the story. And so I wanted to share that tonight because a lot of times, if you have not experienced trauma, if you have not experienced something that is so traumatic to where your adrenaline is pumping, 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 and you just trying to get out of a situation. I even remember calling my sister that night because I didn't know what to do. And I'm screaming, and she's like, I don't know what to do. She ended up calling my dad. My dad and my brother is at my apartment waiting, cocked and loaded, right? Like, I didn't know what to do. And I hate that I called her and pulled her into it, but I literally didn't know what to do. But I'm telling the story to say that you don't always remember everything when you're telling the story. And so I want us to be able to give grace and to give compassion when we're listening to somebody tell their story and you're questioning, well, why didn't you tell that part of the story the first time, or why you didn't tell the whole story the first time? Because people literally do not remember the whole
Mm-hmm.
thing the first time, the second time, the third time they tell the story.
You were busy trying to survive. You got
Yeah,
Yeah, just
trying
trying
to
to
that's
stay out the
survive. Right.
lines. Yeah.
um that's crazy. From the chat, we do have a couple of questions. One question is, what advice would you give someone who's going through abuse but scared to speak out? And that kind of goes into our next question.
Hmm.
in terms of what barriers, emotional, practical, or systematic, made it hard for you to leave or seek support?
Um, my advice would be don't worry about speaking out, just leave. You don't got to stand on top of the world. You don't got to be righteous. You don't got to be the bravest. You don't got to be right. You just got to get out.
Amen.
Um, I can share with you when I got out. The way I got out was the same way I got in. Um, and for me, the benefit of how I was being financially abused was that my financial abuse was that she was using me, right? I wasn't dependent on her financially, and that's not everybody's case. A lot of times it's the other way around, and I get that, I understand that. But like she was on my phone bill, right? Like she was dependent on me for money. But the very first time she hit me was her hitting me while I was driving, and that was the last time she hit me too, like, right? But the very last time she hit me, I had got into a really bad car accident on my way home. But I was supposed to be picking her up from the club. And my car was still drivable, but I was shaking up. And so she was a MC at the club. And so I called her and I was like, hey, I was in a car accident. I don't know that I can come pick you up because somebody else can pick you up. And she verbally abused me and was like, you need to come pick me up. I don't got no other ride. Da, da, da. So I drove from Thornton Road all the way to phase one, which is like a 45-minute drive, like visibly shaking up. I get all the way there and I'm like, hey, I'm outside. And she made me wait 30 minutes before she would come outside. So eventually I get out the car and I'm pissed, right? So I go inside. I'm like, we gotta go. Cause I still gotta drive her 30 minutes and still drive 45 minutes home. So I go get her and I'm like, let's go. She comes outside and yokes me up. The wife of the owner comes outside and was like, hey, get your hands off of her. We get in the car, we're driving, and again, she punches me in my head and my head hits the window. And literally in that moment, she knocked sense into me. Literally in that moment, I said, I don't gotta do this. I literally don't have to do this. It was the clearest day. It was the clearest moment. It was the clearest thought I had
Hmm.
ever had in my life. I don't have to do this. I dropped her ass off and the very next morning I went to Metro PCS. I stood in line and right before I was next, I called her and I said, your phone about to get cut off.
That was a courtesy.
And she said, why? I said, because I'm about to take you off my plan. And I hung up the phone. I canceled her account. And that was it. That was it. Um, and that's not to say I didn't like she's still a community, right? Like I see her. She's still a community. But again, it wasn't about being the biggest, baddest person. It wasn't about being right. It wasn't about winning. It wasn't about outshining her. It wasn't about none of that. I just didn't have to do that shit no more. Like it wasn't about even loving my like I didn't it wasn't a live life love. It wasn't this big grandiose. I didn't read a book. I didn't see a movie. It was just I don't have to do this.
You just had that moment.
It
You just
was
had
just
that wake up
the
moment. Yeah.
it was the biggest clarity moment I had ever
Mhm.
had in my fucking life. And now I will give credit to where it's due. I had a friend at the time, China. We're not friends anymore, but I will always give credit where it's due. She always poured into me that I didn't have to be in that relationship. Um and it was her voice that I heard, right? Um but yeah, that so to the person asking that question, I wouldn't say that you need to do anything but get out. Yeah. But Gemini, you had
Mhm.
asked me something else after that.
Um,
You said it was leading into something else.
you know, listen, it's hard for me to digest this conversation.
It's a lot.
One, because we all live in this community.
Yeah.
Secondly, because to know that you were going through these things in
Mhm.
silence
Yeah.
around the time that I was in your space is hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, like the first time I heard a piece of the story, I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now even deeper is like,
But
I'm,
pause,
I'm,
because there are so many people who are going through it now
yeah. It's
that
like
you don't
you just
know.
live among
Yeah, that's why I say it's in
so
silence. Like a
it,
lot of people suffer in silence.
Yeah.
Like they really do. And some of these people we can be amongst every day and not even know what
Yeah.
they're going through.
and
It's
some of
because
us,
we
we,
shame each other, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's this cycle because you don't you experience the violence or the financial abuse or whatever it is, right? And you feel ashamed, so you don't say anything. And then, but when you watch people who do say something, you watch community shame them, and so you stay quiet because you don't want to be the other person who's getting shamed. Like we watching Cassie get pulled through the mud. We all watched that man drag that lady through that hotel like a fucking rag doll,
Kick that lady, punch that lady.
beat
left
her
and came
like
back and karate chop kicked that lady.
there's no tomorrow. And then people
Yeah.
will fix their mouth to be like, why she ain't leave? Y'all didn't watch her try to leave? We didn't all just watch her try to leave, literally standing
Hello.
by the elevator and watch him drag her, right? But so think about your friend or your sister or your cousin or the girl you go to school with or the girl you go to work with who's in a relationship right now with some man or some woman who's beating their ass, listening to you go, "Shh, couldn't be me." She don't feel safe with you.
Right.
She don't feel safe saying to you, "Curtis beating my ass, Vaughn beating my ass, Carol beating
Mhm.
my ass." Why would she tell you that? When you talking shit about Cassie, you talking shit about Kiki Palmer,
Come on now.
you laughing at Meg the Stallion getting shot. Why would she feel safe coming to you? Because you think it's a joke and it's not. That's why people suffer in silence. Because it's a circle. It's a cycle.
Well, Nicole said she is so proud of you for sharing, and this is really going to help someone. Ladies, don't be afraid to speak up. You're not alone in this battle. And just like you said, China, you heard that voice in the back of your head. We have to start speaking life into each other
We
because you
do.
don't know
I
when
love you,
somebody's
Nicole.
going to have to pull that from their shelf and use it to boy. Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, my honey bunny, you did say that the abuser is still amongst the community.
Hmm.
What does that look like for you?
Whew, that's hard. Um, some days it's easy and some days it's harder.
Hmm.
Um, and to be honest, it has been a journey for me. So that person has apologized to me years ago. I want to say like I've been married 8 years. We've been together 14. I want to say maybe 10 years ago, 11 years
Hmm.
ago, they reached out to me via Facebook and they apologized to me. And they weren't specific. They were like, "Hey, I just wanted you." I think they had gotten married, like they had found Jesus or something. They were getting married. I'm not even being facetious. I'm being so serious. They had found Jesus and were getting married or something, or in a serious relationship or something, and were like, "Hey, I just wanted you to know, all the things I did to you." Like they were vague, right? Like all the things I did to you
Hmm.
wasn't okay, and I just wanted to apologize. Da da da. Da. And I was like, I forgave you a long time ago because I wouldn't have been able to move on, and da da da. Da whatever. Okay, so then that's that, right? And then so I want to say one or two times they had stopped by my job because at the time I was working in retail. They got some things done, and I always felt uncomfortable about it, but I felt like it was my job to have moved on, right?
Hmm.
I hadn't been to therapy about it. Honestly, at the time, I didn't identify as a domestic violence survivor. And I think that's also something we need to identify, right? It takes a while, if ever, to identify as a victim because even like sexual assault, right? Like I'm a victim of sexual assault and I didn't realize that until I was fucking 30 years old. And it
Hmm.
happened in my teens, right? So it's a process, it's a journey. And then more recently, like I was at a pageant, I want to say 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and they came up to me and hugged me, and I was stunned, like frozen. Like I was like, and they was talking to me, was like, "Hey, my mom was asking about you." Da, da, da. It fucked me up because I was like, in my head, nigga, we not friends.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It really, I was not well. Um, and then after that, I found out that they had new parents, and that their parents were, I was cool with them, right? Like,
Hmm.
their parents run a show here that's not far from my house, actually. And I'm cool with them. Now, I don't have no beef. And I think, to me, that's the messy or uncomfortable part, is less the
Hmm.
fact that they're in community and more like they have friends in community. And I don't really know how to navigate that. Or more importantly, I don't know that I need to navigate that. I
Right.
feel like that's for y'all. Like, if y'all want to be friends with an abuser, that's y'all problem.
Hmm.
That's not for me to navigate. That's not my problem. Um, I'm cool as hell.
Yeah.
um, that's, and if they not that person anymore, they not that person. I will say that when you had the panel for this domestic violence, I went back to look at the apology, and they had
Hmm.
deleted it. They had deleted the apology.
Wow.
Like, I could go back to the conversation, and so what I said was still there, but they had deleted their apology, which says to me that they did not want to be held accountable.
Held accountable. Right.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Right.
And then so I've been working through, how I
Mhm.
feel about being in close proximity. So, for example, like my husband had a birthday party at that club that I was telling you about, and I knew they were going to be there. I'm there to celebrate my husband. It's a club, whatever, right? But
Mhm.
there was a house party at their parents' house. I was rushing out. I had got all dressed. I was about to walk out the door, and my husband was like, "Oh, such and such is here," and I didn't go. I stopped right at the door, and it made me uncomfortable that they had that much power,
Mhm.
you know. Um, but I had to choose my sanity. I had to choose my
Yeah.
mental health, because being in close proximity in somebody's house is
Mhm.
different. In that proximity to my abuser,
Yeah.
it's different than being in somebody's club where I could just avoid you. I don't got to speak to you, right? That's not comfortable for me to be sitting next to you on a couch. Like,
Yeah.
that don't make no sense to me to intentionally put myself in that
Yeah.
space.
I can somewhat attest to that because um with this young man taking Shaw's life, his family is still around and about. I don't know if they still live in the Ellenwood, Decatur area. I don't know, but I pray to God often that I don't run into
Hmm.
any of them because I don't know how I will react.
Right.
Like I honestly don't know. I don't get my grandson involved in any activities in this area because
Right.
again, I don't
Mhm.
know where they move at. And again, I don't know how I would react.
Right.
So to avoid that, we do everything other places
Right.
when it comes to him.
Right.
You
Because you
know,
don't know.
because I don't know.
And then also, I have a whole husband who is extremely protective of me,
And is.
right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't even want to create no
No,
scenarios.
exactly. And I can recall one year after one around birthday party, his grandfather and uncle saw the dad at the gas station and we
Mm,
had to talk them down. So
yeah.
I'm like, so I can't put myself
Yeah.
in such a way. Like, so I get it. Like it's yeah, it's kind of touch
Yeah.
and go.
Yeah, it's touch and go, it's unnerving. and I've had conversation with, like, the girl, that one of the girls I'm sorry, one of the girls that she dated. Our pronouns be all over the place
All
sometimes.
over the place.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
One of the girls that she dated after me, I had a conversation with her. They still cool. But she was like, "Yeah, I experienced something similar, not to the extent, right? But something similar." And it broke my heart for her, right? But they're cool, and I respect that. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here to navigate or police
Right.
anybody else's relationships, or right. But also, I peeped who reposted this flyer. You feel me? I peeped who co-signed this, who reposted it, who checked in on me to make sure I was okay before today, right? And who didn't. So
Mm-hmm.
it's again, I'm cool as hell.
And you
I
are.
Yeah, and I'm not holding against anybody where their allegiances lie. I just know where mine lie, and we all have our burdens to bear. I'm just not an abuser, and I'm okay with that.
So you guys have definitely answered the next question, which was, how does it feel to run into people who know both of you or even see your abuser in public? But I'm going to reference the chat because Bonnie Love says, even when you get out, you share the same friends and you tell them that you don't want them to know where you are and they still bring them around. What I've experienced is that even when you don't want to be around somebody, even if they're not physically abusive, but emotionally abusive, it doesn't have to be a relationship, it could be a friendship. They intentionally come into your space as a form of intimidation.
Mm,
And so,
Exactly.
um, I am very much, and people tell you to this day, I pick and choose the spaces I want to be in, how I want to interact, the time, the amount of time I want to use for interaction, and then I leave because I realize that I have to protect my peace, and I don't want any unwanted attention because a lot of times your abusers they feed off of that,
yeah.
and I don't
They
want any
do.
parts of it. Yeah, so
And,
They
but
do.
also for me, at the time that I was in that relationship, we were we were in we were not in a group, which was funny, but it was a set of couples. And ironically, at some point we used to call ourselves CMB. I don't recall what that stood for, but it was like three or four couples, and none of us are together anymore. Like, none of those couples are together anymore. We're all disbanded. We don't I'm only friends with one of those people anymore, and that person is not in relationship, with the other
Mm-hmm.
person anymore. So like that didn't even end up being an issue for me because I didn't hang out with any of those people anymore to have to
Mm-hmm.
worry about them bringing the other person around and feeling intimidated or worrying about if they were going to bring her up, or like it
Right.
literally worked in my favor. And I'm not saying that's going to be the case for everybody else, right? But I'm saying for me, my steps were ordered, right? Like, as soon as I was like, I'm done, it was done. It was finished for me. And that's not to say that I didn't still struggle with being in relationship and healthy relationship, right? But that was the end of being physically abused for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, have you ever felt judged by others for not leaving the community or misunderstood from people who don't know your full story?
Absolutely. So like I said, she had two girlfriends, right? And so for me, I was completely misled and manipulated into that situation. And so the way that relationship started was, um to my initially my understanding was that we were both single, but she kicked it to me like, oh, her and her girlfriend had just broke up. And so she didn't want to make a huge rah-rah about us dating because they had just broken up. And then when we were dating for like 6 months, almost a year, she was like, "Oh, I don't want to make it a big rah rah because her and her ex had a kid, and she didn't want to cause any issues with the kid because she had a new girlfriend." And so, but the reality was they had never broke up. So that was the manipulation, right? But this was why like we could never take pictures together, why we could never be seen in public together, why we couldn't hold hands, why we couldn't be like girlfriend and girlfriend. And
Mm-hmm.
so I always felt disrespected. I always felt underappreciated. And so this is what we were talking about earlier about choosing somebody else over yourself, right? It created the scenario where I was always trying to prove myself. I was always trying to prove my love. So I was always trying to make the biggest birthday party. So I was always trying to spend the most money on
Mm-hmm.
gifts. So I was always trying to go extravagant to prove that I was worth her changing her mind about how she treated me, right? Um, and that is the manipulation of the abuser. And it was always downhill. But I felt judged by the people around me because I felt like they thought I was stupid, which they did, for doing above and beyond. But I just thought I was doing what was right for my relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I absolutely felt um completely judged. I remember one time I did a birthday for her and she brought the other girlfriend, and in some kind of way by year 2 she had just given up the facade of her not trying to of the other girlfriend, and was just like, well, yeah, this other girl is my girlfriend, and you're my other girlfriend, but she doesn't know you're my other girlfriend. And by then I was so in that I just I just
Yeah.
accepted it, you know what I'm
Accepted it.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Along with everything else. But I also wanted to just side note say, but I'm grateful I survived it, because everybody don't survive it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody don't survive getting hands put on them, or financial. Everybody, some people take themselves out. You know what I'm saying? Some people
Mm-hmm.
get taken out. There was an instance where I was at the other girlfriend's house, and my abuser and the first girlfriend got into it so bad that she knocked her out cold, to the extent that I was scared that she was not breathing. And I called 911, and emergency services got there and had to resuscitate her.
Wow.
So I
Uh,
was like, "Oh, I gotta go. I gotta pack my shit and I gotta go." That was terrifying. Now she had never hit me that hard, but when old girl came to, it was like nothing had ever happened. Meaning, like, she wasn't shocked, right? Like that was a normal day for her. And I was like, "Oh, we both getting our asses beat."
yeah.
Yeah, like
She wasn't in shock because she had made herself accustomed to what was
correct,
going on. It became her everyday thing. Like, this is my normal.
correct,
So it didn't phase her whatsoever. I
right,
shake it off today. We'll be in bed later on, and everything's gonna be everything.
right, right. Yeah.
Uh,
I'm on fire. I'm just telling you, I'm on fire. Um, because as you talk, I think of the timeline.
Mm.
And then so I think
You
of
you
another
can see it. Yeah.
I think of another layer to that, and I'm mad because yeah,
Yeah.
because we didn't know.
Yeah.
we didn't know,
We
but
didn't know.
there's a whole nother layer to that, and I'm glad that you were able to save yourself and get out of that. I'm so sorry you had to go through that, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like now that you hear it, you wish you could have helped with that support because
Mm.
yeah. Okay, so what steps have you taken to maintain your safety and emotional balance? We know you do yo man, yo man, yo man.
Yeah.
Definitely therapy. And when I say therapy, I don't mean just talking about the abuse, like holistically therapy, right? Like thinking about, so when we first started talking, and I was like, I just kept it in multiple relationships, kept accepting less, right? Like talking about self-love, radical self-love, radical self-acceptance, loving the skin that you're in, the body that you're in, um, reading more, having a concept of self-reflection and wanting to be a better version of myself, and what does that look like. um it has been a journey for me, and it wasn't something that I was thinking about when I was 20, when I was 21,
Hmm.
right? I'm very clear about the fact that when in my 20s I was consumed with loving somebody else. I had no concept of the fact that I should love myself. I absolutely took that for granted. And we say like self love is the best love, but I literally took that for granted. I just assumed, yeah, I love myself. Like you just, yeah, I love myself. But I had no concept of the fact like I love my nephew, right? But I actively, it's an action word. Like I actively love him. I show up for him. I buy him things. I spend time with him. I give him hugs. I give him kisses. I FaceTime him. I talk to him. I told him the other day, if you see a mosquito, you tell that mosquito, Auntie, going 1 2 1 2 the mosquito. So now every time he sees me, he says, Auntie, I'm gonna get the mosquito. You gonna 1 2 1, right? Like we have a relationship. I tell him he has a self affirmation with me. I am smart. I love myself. I am kind. I can do anything, right? These things that I pour into him because I love him. I am intentional. I didn't have any concept of that for myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was so busy doing all those things for other people. In my late 30s, early 40s, I was like, I wonder what my life would look like if I turned the mirror around,
Mm.
Mm.
right? I wonder what my life would, and I'm gonna tell you what it did. I turned the mirror around. 3 months, I graduated college. I turned the mirror around. I lost 25 pounds. Turned the mirror around, got a promotion. Turned the mirror around, my fucking life changed in less than 6 months, right? And it's I'm in awe. It's life. It literally is life changing. I wish I would have figured that shit out 10 years ago, right? But I still got time left, God willing, right? And so for me, the journey has been to be able to be grateful for the lessons learned and the
Mm-hmm.
time that I have left to do something with the lessons that I've learned.
Good stuff. Turning
Cool.
that mirror around, sometimes it's hard to face that person in the mirror because you don't even recognize yourself anymore.
Yeah,
You don't,
Mm-hmm.
not at all.
yeah.
We're gonna skip down to what moments or milestones have reminded you of your strength, even in the face of fear and triggers?
Say it again.
What moments or milestones have reminded you of your strength, even in the face of fear and triggers?
Hmm. What moments and milestones? I don't know.
What reminded you that you were able to love again? Because going through something so traumatic like that, sometimes you have that fear build up, like I can't do it, and then but you chose to try again, and then you end up with a whole husband,
Yo
Right.
man, yo man, yo
whole
man.
To be honest with you, I never felt like I couldn't love again.
Mm.
Um, I never wanted to love like that again.
Okay,
I never wanted to
that's good.
love. I never wanted to lose myself again.
right.
Um, I didn't want to love. I didn't want to love somebody more than I loved myself. I
Mm-hmm.
remember. I don't remember what happened, but I remember feeling like if I could just make her believe or get her to understand how much I love her, then she won't treat me like this. I was wrong. I was mistaken, right? I was absolutely pitiful. Um, but it was because I didn't know who I was. It was because I wasn't grounded. Um, and I don't ever want to love somebody like that again. I don't love my husband that way. Like I love the shit out of myself, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
love my dirty draws. I love me real bad, which is why I love my husband so much, right? Um, because God forbid me and him don't work out, I'm gonna be okay. And I think that's really important, right? Like I'm not gonna be destitute. I'm not gonna be falling out on the floor. Like I'm gonna miss him. Don't get me wrong, right? But I'm not gonna be, excuse me, a puddle on the floor. I'm still gonna be Brandy. I'm still gonna be me. And I think that's so important. Like we I'm a whole human being without him, right?
Hmm.
And but I wasn't always in that place. I
Right.
used to feel like I had to have a person. I am the person.
Come
I
on
am
now.
the person, right? I am whole by myself. As I stand, as I show up by myself, I am a whole fucking person. I'm valuable all by myself. And I don't ever want to be in a place where if somebody else don't show up, I'm not enough. Absolutely the fuck not. And I want that for everybody else, right? I want that for you, her, him, them, right? Because you are enough. You don't need somebody else's validation or approval to to be valuable. You're valid. Um, so yeah, I don't think that I don't know. I love Sebastian, y'all know, and he fine. And y'all see his bald head? Woo!
It's them little cricket legs for me.
Yeah.
that bald head did it for
Okay.
me. Um,
So, honey bunny, what does resilience mean to you right now?
resilience for me is reinvention.
Hmm.
Um, I'm 42. I'll be 43 in August, and I've been in corporate America for 21 years. And I started in we had this bullshit election, and I met my friend Davon on. I haven't actually met Davon in person, but we're gonna meet next week. But I met Davon on Facebook, and we were tripping out about this election, and we were like, we got to do something. We got to do something. We need some type of action, right? Some action plan. And we were like, you know what? We want to start a book club. Let's do it. We started a book club for white women called Anti-Racism Book Club, and we had 300 white women join this book club. We started for 30 people, and 300 people joined, right? That turned into two more book clubs. And I bring that up to say you can think you're on this path to do this one thing, and God will laugh at your plans, right? And it's amazing how you really have gifts and you really have talents that you don't even realize you have, and they flourish and they blossom and they turn into to something that you didn't know other people needed, right? And
Hmm.
so it's amazing. It's flourishing into this thing, and it's turned into another book club for LGBTQIA people and their allies. It's turned into another book club that my husband is hosting for cisgender and trans men who are repurposing and re-identifying what masculinity looks like. Thank you so much. Come on, Q,
Yeah.
for the book clubs. And so reinventing yourself is resilience, right? Like reinventing what is possible for your life and what you can offer the world is not in this little cute box that is tied up with a bow, right? Yeah, I have a 9 to 5 that I go to every day, that I give them people, they work and they give me my cute little check. But I have more to offer than a 9 to 5, right? And I have this to offer. I have my story, right? But I also have something to offer these white women so they can stop being crazy and they can vote right next time, right?
Right.
I have something to offer for these other book clubs. I have more. And I feel like resilience is just to keep your foot on the gas because you have more to offer. Life is not over at 40. Auntie, we know it's not over at 50.
Hello.
Okay? We got more work to do.
Definitely.
Hmm.
Um, what would you say to someone who's listening who is living near their abuser or struggling to reclaim their power?
That's hard. Um, I would definitely say read more. I know that sounds doesn't sound empowering, but I would say that your imagination is where your story is going to begin. And when you read And when I say read, you can be listening to books. It doesn't have to actually be a physical book. Excuse me, but when you read books and stories about powerful people, about powerful women that get past their odds, it is empowering to you. I promise you it is. I would say seek out support, and that could be support groups, that could be getting in touch with the Shy Foundation, that could be 1-800 numbers, but finding local support there. I know there are support foundations here in Atlanta that are like not easy to find physically, but you can find
Right.
online, right? They're intentionally not easy to find physically so that your abuser can't find it, right? Um, but getting away, you the point that I'm trying to make is it doesn't have to be a grandstand. It doesn't have to be, it's not a movie, right? You just have to get away. And also I want to share with the listeners or the people who are watching, it takes a victim up to 7 times to leave before they can actually get away. Up to 7 times. So to your girlfriend who told you 6 times that she want to leave, and then she leave and she move in with you, but then she go back, that's it takes 7 times, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard. It's really hard. It's really hard to leave. So yeah, that would be my advice, to read some more so that you can build up your strength, your imagination. You really literally have to see yourself away from this motherfucker. You have to envision yourself on the other side of your victory. And a good way to do that is to read about, listen to other powerful women or other powerful people. Because let's be clear, abuse does not just happen to women.
No, does not.
Yes, it does not.
It does not.
Yeah.
So, how can friends, family, even local leaders better support survivors who remain in the same space as their abusers? For one, like you said, watch your mouth because you never know how your words can impact somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely watch your mouth. I would say let each instance be a case by case. For me, that's what it is. So if I know I'm going to be like at a pageant or it's an open event where I could potentially avoid that person, I'm okay, right? Because I don't like to say I'm healed. I feel like that sounds like I've arrived, and I feel like that's pretentious. I like to think of myself as healing, but I can be in a space with my abuser and not nut up, right? But in a closed space where it's a house or a pool party or some shit like that, like
Mm-hmm.
we giggling. I don't want to see you happy, nigga. Like I don't want to see you smiling and laughing and shit. I don't want to see that. That's not, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? I don't want to see that. But I feel like for me, on a case by case situation, I don't feel in danger. But also I want to say this, I have a great support system. I am loved. I have people around me that support me, that pour into me, that check in on me. Like I said, Nicole texts me twice, baby, you okay? You need something? I just want to
Nicole
make
is
sure
in
you're
the
okay.
chat checking on you.
Yeah, like just checking in, making sure you're okay. So I don't ever feel like I'm in a space where if she even if she walked over to speak to me, I feel like 15 people would flock to me. You all right, sis? You know what I'm saying? Um, so I feel like you need to make sure you have a healthy support system around you so that regardless of what transpires with that person, you will be okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, what message do you want the world to hear about surviving, healing, and finding brilliance after being broken? Because you are brilliant, girl.
Thank you. I would say hold on. Hold on. I have had some I brought my tissues because I didn't know. I didn't know if I was gonna cry tonight because I know I've been laughing and smiling and giggling but when I was in it, I cried every night. When I was
Mhm.
in it, I contemplated suicide. When I was in it, I didn't want to be here.
Mhm.
And it was because the person who I loved didn't love me back, right? It was because the person I loved didn't love me the way I needed to be loved. Um, Crying myself to sleep every single night, feeling alone, feeling lonely, feeling misunderstood, feeling disrespected, not having the safety of my family because I felt ashamed that I was accepting less than what I deserved.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm saying hold on, I'm not saying hold on in the relationship. I'm saying if you're gonna cry, cry because you're getting over it. If you're gonna cry, don't cry in the relationship. Cry because you left that motherfucker. Cry because you're getting over the hurt. Let the tears be worth something. If you're gonna be broke because you're moving towards freedom, because you're moving towards liberation,
Mhm.
because you are worth the growth. You are worth the tears. You are worth the journey. You are worth the healing, even if they don't see it, right? I know we've heard that story about like, if I give you a $20 bill and I tear it a little bit, it's still worth $20. If I give you a $20 bill and I crumble it, it's still worth $20, right? If I give you a $20 bill and I burn it on the side a little bit, it's still worth $20. You are still valuable. Just because this punk ass motherfucker don't see it doesn't mean you're not valuable. And I
Mhm.
just want to encourage you that if you just hold on and you get through it, I'm not promising you a husband on the other side. I'm not promising you a wife on the other side. I'm promising that you're going to get to meet you and you going to love that motherfucker the way you deserve. And you're going to get to appreciate that person the way you deserve. And you're not going to need anybody else to love that person because you're going to do it the way you deserve.
Mhm.
If
Ooh.
you could leave us with one truth about healing in plain sight in the same streets, stores, sidewalks where the trauma happened, what would it be? One truth.
Let it go. Let it go. Let it be. Let it lie. Let it rest. Let it go. It's all right. It happened. Ain't nothing you can do about it. It happened. Let it go.
Mm.
Just let it be. You heard her? Just let it go. Let it
Yeah.
be. Don't resurrect it.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I opened up questions from the chat before we close out. And Bonnie Love said, how long did it take you to let someone love you again?
Sincerely, 4 years. I got into a relationship pretty fast, but I was just, they say the quickest way to get over somebody is to get under somebody.
Mhm.
Mm.
But to let somebody love me for real, 4 years. So my husband, I got into a relationship for 2 years after that one, and then my husband was my second relationship after my abusive relationship. So my husband. Oh,
Speaking of your husband,
I
I
love
I
you.
knew he was gonna come through.
I gave him permission to not watch tonight. I know it's a lot for him. And I told him, I said, you don't have to. I know you support me, but if it's too much, it's okay. And he was like, I might be in and out. I don't know. If it get too hot, I might have to. But thank you, baby. I love you.
Mm.
Another question: how are you mentally and emotionally?
I'm okay. I had really bad anxiety before this, and I think so I'm going to see Beyonce tomorrow. Excuse me. And I think what I was doing, like I'm getting ready for my outfit, like I was working on my outfit, and I think I was like hyper focusing on my outfit in a way to avoid thinking about the podcast.
Right.
But what I was doing was just giving myself anxiety about the podcast. So that like around 7:45, I was like, if you don't sit your ass down and just get your mind right, and that's what I did. And so once it started and you started asking the questions, like I said, I'm a yapper, y'all. I can talk all day. So once I started talking, I calmed down and my anxiety been gone. So I'm fine.
Cool.
Okay. So you did wonderful.
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
wish I could have added more, but as you talk, like I said, it was kind of triggering to me because
Yeah. I think because we've been knowing each other for 20 years,
right,
Gemini.
right, right, it's
So
crazy.
you've been knowing me through all these times that I'm talking about.
Yeah, and as you talk about certain stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute, that sounds familiar. And so I'm not gonna lie, I'm bothered by it. And like I said, I wish that I could have, gave you offer you some type of support. You just never know what your friends are going through. And
Yeah.
it's just hard to listen. Even when I think about Shy, right next door, who knew? Who knew, all that was going on. And some of my other friends, I've been in situations where I actively saw the abuse taking place. And I'm like, hey, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
Some people
Right.
felt obligated to stay in that situation, and some people are still in that situation to this day. And all you can do is try to speak life into your friends, and hopefully one day they'll get it. You have a comment from the chat, say, this is amazing, thanks for your bravery and being vulnerable, most importantly showing us what healing out loud looks like. I love you, friend. And that comes from Jay Jakari. Oh,
Oh, friend. Oh, Jakari gonna make me cry.
you go cry. See, you have support coming from
Everywhere.
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 God
You're
damn it, Jakari.
And this is what supports looks like. You have to show up for your friends. You have to be there. You have to cover them. Like you honestly, you just have to. Because there are some days I don't know whether I'm coming or going, but I know I can always call on Gemini for a laugh
Man,
Yeah.
to
sometimes
just
I go
to
knock
just
on
bring me
down
back down.
because she
Yeah.
You know, and
alone.
so I can honestly say that I have a village. I have a village.
Yeah.
I
Same.
have people that are not um, on the scene that I know I can call on
Yeah.
to cover me.
Yeah. Same.
So a lot of times people ask me, what does healing look like for me? My healing looks like therapy.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. It looks like therapy. It looks like Raphael. It looks like my village.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I definitely feel, like I was saying earlier, I feel like I have community. And I feel like that has been my saving grace, to be able to be in community with my abuser. Because also, to be fair, I'm not a nightlife girl,
You're
right? But
not.
right. So it's very seldom that I'm out in the club or, to be in the face of my abuser anyway. But um that also may be part of why I don't see them very often. But I do feel loved, genuinely loved and respected and appreciated, that nothing would happen in public, right?
Hmm.
um and also, I genuinely don't feel like, I don't know if she's still that person, but I don't feel like she means me ill will today. I don't, right? I don't feel like she looking around to hurt me today. But like I said earlier, the fact that she erased that message of her apology made me feel like she didn't want to be held accountable in the
Hmm.
future, right? That was uncomfortable at the very least to me. But yeah, I feel loved. I appreciate so much to my friends and my husband too, um, who joined the the podcast tonight who spoke
Did you
life into
did
me
you did you see
tonight.
the last comment?
Yeah, he said, "Wait, she ain't cried for me." He's so silly. No, I cried on our wedding day. Thank you, sir. I appreciate y'all so much. I really do. I love y'all very, very, very much. And thank you, Denise and Gemini, for giving me the opportunity to tell my story.
Thank
Well,
you.
no,
Thank
thank you,
you.
because honestly, when we
Thank
first
you.
sat down and had the talk, you were the one who shed a lot of light. You for me when because I was typically thinking, domestic violence was just a couple little things. And then you were the one who kind of opened it up and said, "No, it's much more than that." And I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, wait a minute." So I had to take a deeper dive into it. So I just appreciate your perspective on a lot of the topic. Even now, just listening to your story, um, and you're really harping on that you had a great support system, but then my heart just bleeds for that person who's been isolated, who doesn't have a support system,
Who doesn't have a
yeah,
support
doesn't
system?
have
Right.
anybody to go to or lean on, or know
Right.
that 15 people going to show up for them. And it's just,
yeah,
you know, it's hard. So, like I said, I know now to watch my mouth, um, and be very intentional with well, I've been practicing trying to be intentional with my words lately, but I know now to like really take accountability for my words, because you never know how they can affect somebody else. And it's really true. You can speak like life or death into somebody.
yeah,
And I too, like, I start my day with affirmations. And it's just for me because I need to know, kind of reestablish and center myself, and reestablish what I feel my
Mhm.
worth is. And so, before I go to work with them kids, I sit in the car for about 5 minutes, and I listen to affirmations. It's this one
mm,
song I love, and it just makes me feel like put back together again before I go and face the world. So I
Right.
think we just need
Right.
to take time, and just kind of love on ourselves, decide what we see as being a healthy, loving relationship for ourselves looks like. It may look different for everybody. Some people may like being in certain situations. It might not be for everybody,
yeah,
but um, definitely, if you feel uncomfortable, if you feel like you're in a compromising situation, if you feel battered, abused, I do actually. I'm not going to tell you to stay. I'm not going to tell you to leave because you said take 7 times, but I'm going to tell you to take a real good look at yourself and decide what you feel like your life should look like. And if it doesn't look like being in that situation, then I plead for you to go get help.
Go
yeah,
Um,
get help.
yeah,
Exactly.
because just telling somebody to leave, um, it's never that easy. There's
It's
always
not that easy. It's not that easy, especially when you're on the outside looking in. Just telling someone to leave is never that easy.
yeah.
It's
So
yeah.
not.
It's if somebody comes to you, or if you know that somebody's in a situation, the better question to ask is, "What do you need to leave?
Mm-hmm.
What do you need to leave?" Because it gives them, it requires that person to really ask that of themselves, right? Like, do I need finances? Do I need a car? Do I need somewhere
Mm-hmm.
to stay? Do I need courage? Do I need strength? And then if are there kids
Right.
involved? Like, what is it, right? What is it do I need? And that also, I'm not saying there were benefits to my situation, but my situation was different. I wasn't with a man, so I didn't have children, right? Um, I was able to just literally walk away from her. Um, and it cost me friendships maybe, but I wasn't tethered to her in any other way besides
Mhm.
those friendships. But that's not everybody's story. Some people are tethered 10 years into a marriage. Some people are
Right.
like, their families are connected. They have children. Their finances are tethered. Their
Mm-hmm.
mortgages are tethered. Their bills, and you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
there's so much going on. So yeah, it's not always as easy just to get up and walk away.
absolutely. Before we get out of here, I want to give you the floor because you were so gracious to share a story with us, and tell everybody about your book club. Well,
Sure.
take a breath first. Take a breath. You've been through a lot, you know. Um, but I want to give you the floor to Uh oh.
Denise always dropping off at the end for some reason. There she go.
Nah,
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm gonna remove us, and it's just gonna be you, so you can share
Oh,
your stuff with everybody.
okay.
All right.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Brandy Helena. So, first, you can follow me on TikTok at Brandy Helena with the S at the end. I would love for you to follow me. I talk a lot about racism, about our parents who we have to raise in our 40s. And I am a co owner along with my friend Davon Madison. We own three different social justice book clubs. So, those book clubs are Anti Racism for White Women. Um, Lavender Liberation for LGBTQIA. Yes, Lavender Liberation for LGBTQIA plus and their allies. Then we have Ashes and Ink. That is hosted by my husband for Black trans and cis, Black trans and cisgender men, redefining masculinity. Did you put the anti-racism one up? I didn't see it. There we go. That's me and Day. That is specifically for white women. And this Sunday, we are doing a deep dive. We're starting the first deep dive on Lovecraft Country. So we would love to have you. All of these book clubs do have a subscription, but they come with some amazing benefits. You can check my link tree. The link tree is listed in the comments of this chat. To learn a little bit more about me, I've been featured in the Atlanta Voyage, the New York Times, and the Rolling Stone. If you want to get to know a little bit more about me, you can also join my book clubs from my link tree. It has been a pleasure talking to you all. I hope to get to know you a little bit more from my TikTok. Thank you.
Oh, that was so nice.
It
That was
was
I can I
amazing.
can give white girl.
Amazing.
so
I
what
put
to do?
on.
We would like to thank you so much for sharing your
Thank
story.
you.
Your voice is definitely necessary. And your bravery speaks volumes.
Thank you.
So to all the listeners, please go and support. I've had the pleasure when she first started going crazy on TikTok. I was like,
I know her.
wow. So please, just it costs nothing to tune in and support
To
you guys.
tune in and support, it costs
Absolutely.
absolutely nothing.
So listeners, so if this episode resonates with you, please offer some support. Come back. If you know a friend that can benefit from this topic, please share. We're available on Spotify, YouTube, and Facebook. We're getting bigger and better.
Yes.
Our next guest is going to be unbelievable as well. We would like to thank each and every one of you guys for tuning in on us, tuning in with us and engaging with us. I really do appreciate it. I'm gonna go back and read um how many people commented in the chat, and the person with the most interaction, I am going to give them one of our new t-shirts.
New t-shirts.
Our
Hey.
foundation from victims to victors, because we're not victims anymore. We're
We're
victorious.
victors. We're
Um,
victorious in this
so,
thing.
like I said, thank you guys so much. And until next time, we will see you guys later. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
Brandy, again, thank you. Love
Of
you so
course.
much.
Love y'all.
Goodbye.
Bye.